Hello, hello. Jennifer of Scrapping Under the Influence. I am back with a new project for the design team at Country Craft Creations. This time I had Echo Park's Magical Birthday Boy paper. There is also a Magical Birthday Girl paper that's much more pinks and grays and whatnot rather than the traditional, Disney reds and blacks and yellows and whatnot. But what I have done is something a little bit different out of the box. I've done an accordion album, however, it's acetate. So, we've got a belly band shaker. This shaker is done with no foam tape. It is an acetate box that houses the shaker element. I'll show you how to do that. It's actually a lot easier than you would think. And it just looks really, really cool because it's just the shaker and there's like no border, there's no foam, it's just, yeah. So we've got our little belly band. When you open this up, we have acetate pockets all the way across, okay? So in each pocket, I've only done one tag. You could probably get 2 or 3 tags in one of these, but we've got tags all the way through. And these will hold 4x6 picture. You might have to cut a tiny bit off the length, but these will hold 4-inch wide. You have to cut maybe 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch off of a 4x6 picture for these. But they're double-sided. I've got, a couple of cut aparts, a couple of the patterns, and then the matching solids. For the tags, I have matted my little hinge pieces just with little strips from the collection. And then I've used some of the stickers just on the fronts of some of our little acetate pockets here. So when I stand this up, you can kind of see there's space with these just because of how, you can score and fold the acetate, but it will never go completely flat, which in this case really works in your favor because then you can get, several tags in here if you wanted to. Even once they have pictures on them, they're still going to fit. There is an 1/8 of an inch gusset between each one of these little accordion pages. And that's the other cool thing too, is once everything's over and done with, you could set this out and have this on display, and you're going to be able to see from either side what you've got in here. So this would be a good one, especially if you are doing Disney, if you're doing this with Disney paper that's not the birthday paper, or if you are doing a Disney birthday, which fingers crossed we get to do that this year. It has been our plan for, oh my gosh, 3 years now. So our anniversary and my son's birthday are 2 days apart in September. So this year is our 20th anniversary. It's his 9th birthday. So our plan for the last 3 years has been what we've called the epic anniversary trip and Nick's birthday. Just because Nick will always go, well, hey, it's my birthday. So we'll see. Pandemic, I don't know. We may have to push it until next year. I sincerely hope not. But if we get to go, I at least have Nick's birthday album all ready to go. So, but what I was getting to before I got sidetracked, you've got this, where I've got a solid on the one side. You could just take all of these little tags with you to the parks. You could do your character greetings, have your character sign on the back of these tags, and then you could put your child's picture with that character on the other side. And because this is all acetate, you could display that and be able to see both sides. So that is my project. The tutorial will follow next. Okay, so we're going to start with 2 pieces of chipboard, 4 3/4 by 6. To wrap those, you need 2 pieces of cardstock, 8 by 6 3/4. This is going to be just our typical cover method that you would use for any album for both of these pieces. Oh, see, I did write it on there somewhere. See, I knew I wrote the measurement down on it. I was like, where did it go? Okay. Put that one aside. Go ahead and do the other one. Okay. All right. And I am using the new gray artisan cardstock that Tammy just got into the store a little over a week ago. And it's so pretty. And it's artisan, so it's fabulous, just like the rest of the artisan, but it's just a really nice color. I also got the new like olive green that she got. I haven't played with that one yet, but it's also very, very pretty. Okay, so we're just going to fold our chipboard around, our cardstock around our chipboard. It'd be almost impossible to fold the chipboard around the cardstock. That would suck. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and I didn't do one side. Sorry about that. We're going to go ahead and cut out the squares on the corners. And I'm just cutting right along that line I created when I folded and burnished the cardstock around the chipboard. Okay. There we go. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and bend this over, and if I have anything hanging out here, I want to trim that off. So I'm using the chipboard as a guide. I'm just going to pivot in ever so slightly and miter. And I'm going to do this on all of my corners. I'm going on the short sides. Okay. I'll do that on both pieces. Actually, I don't need that one. Why was I thinking I needed that one? Sorry, I'm just thinking ahead to what I'm doing here. And I had an extra piece sitting here that I actually don't think I need. Okay. Okay, so then I'm going to take my score tape. You can do this with just glue if you want to. I do like using both. And we're going to go ahead and get these flaps adhered down so that we have our front and back cover pieces wrapped. All right. So I'm going to grab my glue and get my pin out of there. I'm going to go ahead and get the backing off of all of these pieces. Try not to stick it to your hand because, you know, that would make sense. So I'm just going to put glue along the edge of the chipboard. And then in between the score tape and the chipboard, I'm going to use my bone folder, push that up against the side of the chipboard, and then over and burnish it down. And again, on the other side. I'll do the two long sides. It doesn't matter if you do the long sides or the short sides first. I just tend to do the short sides first. I'm not sure why. But that's just how I do it for some reason. Okay. All right. Let's do our second one here. Sorry, it's kind of cold down here and my hands are really, really stiff today, so if I seem like I'm moving a little bit slowly, that's why. And again, glue along the edge of the chipboard. And we're going to just fold and burnish. Okay. Stick the pin in the glue really quick. All right. Okay, so you can set these two pieces aside for now. We will eventually cover them with two pieces that are 5 7/8 by 3 5/8. But let's move on to the rest of our accordion. So you're going to need 12 pieces that are 6 inches by 1 3/8 inches. Okay, with the 1 3/8 at the top of the scoreboard, you are going to score this at 5/8 of an inch and then 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so that's going to give you an 1/8 of an inch gusset. Okay, that's going to be where the pages of our accordion bend is going to be right here. Okay, you're going to need 12 of those. I've gone ahead and done those. You don't need to sit and watch me score 12 of these pieces. So 6 inches by 1 3/8 scored at 5/8 and 3/4. That's going to leave you with 5/8 of an inch on either side of that score mark. So when you go to mat those two little pieces, you're just going to use a little 1/2 inch strip. Okay, that's why it's sized that way, because that made it a little bit easier to mat. So you're then going to take your 12 by 12 sheets of acetate and you're going to cut them into 4-inch strips. So you're going to get 3 4-inch strips out of each piece. Okay, so you're going to have 6 4 by 12-inch strips of acetate. You're going to put that 4 by 12 piece in your scoreboard with the 12-inch along the top. You're going to score it 6 inches. And when scoring acetate, especially if it's a little bit heavier acetate like this, you're going to have to go over that a couple of times to really get that score mark in there. Okay? All right, so you can see, kind of, there you go. If I get the light on it just right, you can see where that score line is. Okay? And you can see here how it's kind of bending now like we want it to. You're going to do that on all 6 pieces. You're then going to prep these. Okay, so what we're going to do with that, I have 1/4-inch score tape. It's going to work best with 1/4-inch. If you have larger, it's not going to come out like mine is going to come out. Okay, so you're going to do 1/4-inch score tape flush with the edge, very outside edge of that acetate. Okay, you're going to go from that score line to the other end on both sides. You don't want to put score tape across the score line because this is going to fold and you don't want score tape sitting on that fold line and collecting dirt and dust and whatnot. So that is why you do need to do it in 2 pieces. Okay. That's also why we're tearing it with a straight edge, just to make sure it's good and even. So I've got, once you've done that, you're going to go ahead and fold this. And even though you've got a score line, yeah, you could just pinch it at the score line and burnish it. I still will line it up at the top, line the corners up, and then go out and burnish down that score line. You can do it with your bone folder or whatever, that's fine. Not super necessary, you really can do it with your finger because once this is folded, it's folded. It's not going anywhere. So I got this started. So what you're going to do, you're going to have your strips, okay? What's going to happen is those strips, you're going to start and you're going to do a strip on each side of one of these pieces, and then you're going to build it out from there, okay? So what I did, and I'll show you on one of these, and then we'll attach these other ones together. What I did is I just pulled, let's get on this side, pulled my backing off. I've got my little scored hinge piece. I did it with the bumpy side towards the table so that the valley side, I guess, it's a score line, I'm not really sure, is facing up. And all I'm going to do is lay this so that this edge is flush with this edge of your score tape, okay? So let me hold that up. So if we had the backing off here, this is going to sit flush right over that. You're not going to go over, you're not going to go back because you of course don't want that score tape showing, but it's going to sit flush right over that score tape. One way I found that makes it really easy to do this is I just get this flat on here, kind of push this piece up against the edge of that score tape, make sure I'm lined up at the top, and then you literally can just flip it over and push it down, okay? Okay, so again, I'm getting up against the edge of that. I'm just flipping it over and down, and then you'll have your first piece started. From this point, you will then attach the rest of these together. So to do that, all I did, faced it towards me, I pulled that off. Actually, I pushed it upside down, so I did it up this way. And again, I am just lining up where you can see the score tape here. Okay, see how that's that nice kind of opaque? The top edge of this, of the cut side, against the top edge of your strip, with this outside edge of your strip, even with the outside edge of score tape. Just like that. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and attach this to my longer piece that I already had going. Okay. If you don't want to flip it right side up, you can do it from this side. It's a little bit harder. So that's where once you get that starter piece with both pieces on the edge, it's easier to flip it upside down like so as you continue going across. Okay. And again. So I'm going to come to this end. And I'm going to line it up again and down. Okay. And then our last piece here, because we're on an end again, I'm going to flip it back the good side up and do like I did before, using the tape as the guide. And then over and down. Okay. So now you've got this nice unwieldy long piece with all these acetate pockets. So to seal this up, we're going to leave these ends for right now. Okay? Because our two cover pieces that I've now lost, there they are. One of them is going to go on here, right on this edge, and then you'll have your piece that will cover over there, and then you're going to have the piece on the opposite end. So we're not going to do anything at this point with this end, but we can go ahead and put our other pieces on for the rest of this. Okay, so all I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to push that all the way flat, and then I'm going to push the one next to it flat. And again, just go back over that score point, and then I'm going to get my backing off. Well, maybe I am. Okay, and actually, to make sure this is going to stay down where I want it to for right now, I'm going to get it lined up, and I'm going to clip it. And I'm going to do this all the way across, just because that way I can make sure that my piece is lined up flush at the top the way it needs to be, and that it's going to stay put while I'm getting our other side on here. So we got to do a couple things with it when we get this other side going. Okay. So again, I'm just going to push that down again, because until we get this permanently attached down, it's going to want to keep trying to flip up and over. So that's, I do have clips up. Alright, so I'm just going to do this all the way across. Okay. That is my one complaint with acetate, is it just attracts every little piece of fuzz and dust and everything. It does not matter how well I clean off my table beforehand, because I did go at this with cleaner before I started doing this, and it still is finding literally every piece of dust. Okay, so We've got our tape off here. We're going to put glue in between our score lines. Okay? You want to run a little bit outside the score line, like just a line on the outside edge of the score line. That's fine. All you're going to do now is just line this up. And I think it's going to be easier if I have the top facing me, so the opening's facing me. Okay, again, bumpy side facing down towards the table. And I am just going to line this up exactly on top of where the other hinge on the other side is, and then burnish that down. Okay, like so. We're going to do this all the way across. So again, I'm just going to push those down. Okay. I'm going to do my glue between my score lines. On the outside edge of my score line. And then I'm going to put my next hinge right on top. Okay. Like so. And come to the next one, do the same thing again. Get our backing off. Get our glue. Push that down just a little bit again. I'm recording. Huh?
Then you drop off my radio feed.
Okay, well.
Fuck.
Not right now. Okay. I'm missing a piece. Aren't I? Did I count wrong? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Aha, I did count wrong. We're going to have to cut 2 more pieces, but that's okay. Or are we? Yeah, we're going to have to. Okay, sorry. I did count wrong. I apologize. So it's going to be 14 pieces, not 12. But they're little enough, it's not a big deal. You can get all of them out of 1 sheet of cardstock, so. This project actually only took 3 sheets of cardstock, so. Further over than I intended it to. Okay, and again, line it up exactly opposite of the tab below it, and down you go. Easy, easy. Okay, last one for a second, and then we'll get our cover pieces on. Okay, and again, and that I've got just a little bit of score tape hanging off that edge there, so I'll have to clean that up here in a minute. All right, so we can go ahead, pull that one, pull the middle ones off. Okay, I'm going to turn this with this edge towards me. Okay, so we've got it facing towards us. There's 2 score lines here. I'm going to fold the one that is closest to me, just so I can I have a visual on where this piece needs to go, because this is actually, I'm going to take that off, is going to sit on top here, okay, so that this tab is on top of the chipboard. All right, so I am going to actually miter that just a little bit. Okay. I am going to put it face up because that is going to be easier. All right. So I'm going to go right up to that score line and push that down. Okay. We'll go ahead and cut 2 more of our, that's my 6-inch piece, right? Yes. Little hinge pieces there. Okay, so 1 3/8. And then again, scored at 5/8 and 3/4. All right. Sorry about that. The really bad part is I counted it to myself like 4 times and apparently still couldn't figure it out. Okay, so we're going to take on this end now, we're going to pull up our backing. We're going to do our score tape in, our glue in that little gusset, and then all over on this other side. Line that up on top, just like we did on the other ones. And I meant to miter that and I didn't, so I apologize. It'll be okay, but it would have been a little bit cleaner mitered. So then I've got my other piece that's going to reinforce that whole thing. And this one is 4 5/8 by 5 7/8. And I did right on this one too, and I just put it down wrong. So 5 7/8 by 4 5/8. I do have score tape over the back of that just because I don't want it to bubble or anything. So I'm going to put that down, burnish it down. So there's one end. And we can probably, let's go ahead and fold here. So I'm going to be able to fold both of those score lines. And we're going to have, it's going to kind of round over just a little bit, which is fine. But it's going to fold back and forth in an accordion. Depending on how much glue you used and how it's spread in the gusset, that little 1/8-inch gusset, and on the edges of the 1/8-inch gusset, it's going to kind of depend on how this folds for you, okay? So kind of keep that in mind. And we're just going to go back and forth, back and forth. And the reason we're folding this up now is because we want to put our other cover. So see how here's our cover, and then here's our first spine piece, and we've got that so that cover sits on top as opposed to it trying to fold under the other way. That's what we want to make sure we do on this one as well. Okay, so that's all folded. On this one, we're going to take, and I'm going to get my glue. You're going to go right up to that. Sorry, I can't see it from that angle without leaning in front of the camera. Right up to that score line. Put that one down, or not, because apparently I can't glue today. Okay, sorry about that. I need to monitor it, so we're just on a roll today, aren't we? That would help. Lord. Okay. Anyway, back to putting this down by the score line, like so. We're going to carefully flip it over, and then we will get our other little hinge piece on, and then we can put our other cover. Okay, so again, we're going to go all over this area. And we're going to go in that hinge. I'm sorry, gusset. And then again, just going to line this up. And burnish that down. And then take your other 3 5/8 by 5 7/8 piece and cover up the rest of that chipboard and reinforce your tab. All right, remove that. Go ahead and fold this one over as well. All right, so there you go. There's your accordion. It's upside down. The acetate pockets, I'm going to go ahead and get some cardstock cut for our inserts. Go ahead and mat on these tabs and our front and back covers. And then I will be back to talk about our belly band that is going to hold this whole thing closed. All right, so the belly band. You need a strip that is 12 inches by 2 15/16. This is important because what we're going to do, rather than use chipboard and try to, either the lightweight or the normal kind and try to wrap it and all that, we're just going to double over the cardstock to make our belly band stronger, okay? So you'll see here I've got the one I'm actually going to use, mostly done, but this is what we're going to do, and this is why it needs to be that 16ths of an inch shorter, because you can see here how there's like that just tiny gap where these fold over. That's why it needs to be smaller. So we are going to score at 3/4 of an inch, and then we are going to score at 2 1/4. Okay. Make sure I can actually score a straight line. That would be incredibly helpful. Okay, then you're going to turn it. And this is why I had my thing over here, because I didn't write down what I did. All right, you're going to turn it so your 12 is at the top. You're going to score at 2 inches. You're going to score at 3 1/2. you're going to score at 8 1/4, and then you are going to score at 9 3/4. Okay, so 2 inches, 3 1/2, 8 1/4, 9 3/4. So you're going to have 4 score lines on the long way and 2 on the short side. What you're going to do now, and I'm going to demonstrate just a couple of them. I'm not going to do the whole thing because I do have my one already prepped. Excuse me. We're going to miter our corners. Okay. And then where we have these score lines, okay, if it's easier for you to cut up the score line and then miter, that's fine. In fact, that is actually probably way faster than the way I was doing it. So we'll just go with that. So you're going to cut up the score line and then miter. Okay. Again, up the score line and then miter. Okay. Again, up and then miter. And it doesn't have to be a really aggressive miter, just enough so that when you fold this over and then you go to bend it, you don't have any of that cardstock interfering with where you're trying to bend this right here. Okay, so that's what you're trying. That's the goal of this. So you're just going to cut up to that score line and then miter. Okay. All right. So when you got those all mitered, you're just going to bend these tabs in like so and glue them down. Okay, all the way across the top, all the way across the bottom, and glue those down. And then you're going to have the base part of your belly band. Okay, so once those are all glued flat, like this, you're going to have the base of your belly band. You can go ahead and mat the entire outside, which, because our shaker is going on the front of this and it's going to be mounted on the front here, you don't have to mat on those two pieces that come around the front. You don't have to mat those all the way across because that's going to sit on top. But they do need some matting so that it comes out underneath over here. Okay. And you can go ahead and mat your inside, which is what I'm going to do really quickly. So these are 1 3/8 wide. And the back one's 4 5/8. I mean, you guys know how to measure for your matting. So I'm not going to get too far into that because you guys know how to do that. Okay. And the reason we're matting this on the inside, if you don't want to, you don't have to. If you just wanted to come in and mat the inside with your solid cardstock, you could do that too. It just makes it look a little bit cleaner when you have the belly band off of the project. So, yeah, that's all we're doing here. And then again, I am going to mat towards the inside on these because, again, that's going to be covered up. But you still are going to have part of this that's going to show underneath there. So just so it looks a little bit nicer. Okay. All right, so now what I'm going to do is you're going to need 2 pieces assuming you're doing your shaker the same size as mine. Mine is going to be 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. So these are 4 and, are these too big? Hold on. Did I do them the right size? 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. Sorry. I'm completely like questioning myself. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my scoreboard and I'm going to put this in here, pushing this over so that this is sitting at a right angle. Okay? To make sure I haven't pushed this in too far, you know, stood it up too far, whatever the case may be. Okay? You're not going to have a whole lot that's going to show on the side because, again, this is 4 3/4. This is 4 1/4. So you've only got about 1/4 of an inch on each side. Okay? So, no, I don't want it on the front, I want it on the back. So I'm going to go ahead get my glue on there. That's how I was doing this. It's like this. Sorry. I forgot we're doing this back one first. So I'm just going to kind of center this up, make sure my thing is going to be at a right angle when this side goes down, and just make sure that this is mostly centered. You can wait and do this after you've got your shaker, get your shaker centered up on the front, and then put this one down. I thought it might be easier to do it this way. It's entirely up to you, whatever you think is going to work best for you, for your project. And I think that one probably would have been easier, so I think I'm going to just very carefully pull this off. Not very carefully. Oh, no. Okay. So, well, hopefully that's getting covered up because now it's a mess. But that's okay. All right, so let's do our shaker. So this is going to be a borderless shaker with no foam tape. What you need is a piece of acetate that is 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. We are going to score this again. Okay? So on all 4 sides, you're going to score this first at 1/2 inch. And again, because this is acetate, you are going to want to go over this a couple of times. So 1/2 inch and then 3/4 inch. And as soon as you get that score line good and solid in there, that will try to lift up on you. Okay? So you are going to have to hold this. In fact, it probably is going to be better to start at that 3/4 line and then do your 1/2. Just to ensure that your acetate doesn't move too much on you. So 3/4 inch and then 1/2 inch. Okay. The last one is going to be the hardest one. I'm actually going to turn this just at an even weirder angle because this is how I can use my scoreboard. So 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch. Okay? All right. So now we're going to do a little bit of cutting on this before we go through and try to really fold anything. I'm telling you, I have just wiped this desk down again, and this is all gunked up again. Okay, so what you're going to do, you're going to see you have a little square in here between your score lines. You're going to cut up to the second score line on one side. You're going to turn this. You're going to cut this whole little piece out. And I realize this is hard to see because, again, it's acetate. Let me see if I can get, I don't think how to show you guys. Okay, so we've taken this piece out. You're then going to cut on the top of the little square, and then you're going to remove this piece. So what you're going to end up with is you're going to have that little square that was formed, there we go, that was formed by scoring the acetate. You need to make a tiny flap out of that square and cut off everything around it. So let's do this side. So I'm cutting through both score lines up the side. I'm going to the other side, cutting all the way up and removing that piece. I'm then cutting up this one to the next score line and then cutting up this score line to remove that little piece. Okay, let's see if I can zoom in where you guys maybe can see it just a tad bit better while I do the other two. Okay, that's better. All right. So again, we've got our square here that's been formed by our scoring. I'm trying to get where that light reflects. You can kind of see what I'm talking about. Okay. You're going to cut up, and then you're going to cut up. So that piece comes out. Okay. You're going to cut up again, and then you're going to cut like so, so that that other little piece comes out. Okay. So what you're left with is kind of a diamond in that corner, and one side of it is loose, so this will fold in like a tab. Okay. So one more time. Up. Okay. All right. So we've got those. Let me get this zoomed back out. And I don't know why that autofocus is still trying to go, even though it's turned off. That's really weird. Okay. So before we go any further, I'm going to get my 3/8 inch score tape. We're going to flip this so your scored pieces are going up as opposed to this is, you know, down and kind of, okay, up. And we are going to go ahead and put score tape on those edges. Okay. And I've got this on that paper just so that hopefully you guys can see it a little bit better, because I know anytime you're working with acetate, it's so hard to record and, you know, have you guys be able to see it. So, you know, hopefully that kind of works. Okay. So, all right. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to find my cut apart. So I took one of the 4x4 cut aparts and I double matted it just on the matching solids for the collection. And that's what's going to be the back of our shaker. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this bottom part here and I'm just going to line up the bottom edge of this cut apart, or the side or the top, whichever way. It's 4x4. It's not like it's going to be upside down. I'm going to line it up on that score line. Okay. So it might kind of help to kind of push it down and away from you. Make sure it's centered on there. And then that's going to go over and down. Okay? Got a little bit of tape hanging off the end there. It should not be there. I'm not sure why it is. Okay? So then you're going to fold. You've got two little tabs here. You're going to bend those, fold them in, and then you're going to fold this up. And this is where we're going to finally fold and burnish those score lines. Okay? In this case, we didn't want to do it too soon because then it makes these harder to work with. So we can go ahead and do our one side. Okay? And the other side. We're not going to do the top yet. We don't want to, it's going to attach last because that's how we're going to get our shaker fill inside. Okay, so now we're going to tuck those tabs in. Okay, and we're going to fold that side out and around, and oops, get that tab back in there. That little tab, once this thing is all fully assembled, is what's going to help keep our shaker fill in. Okay, see how it closes off those corners? Okay, so we've got it pretty much where it's going to go. I'm going to open that up, and then I'm just going to hang on to this. I'm going to make sure that tab is on the inside where I want it. And again, I am just going to push this side up to that crease on the acetate and then push it down. And then this, I may need my, okay, burnish that down. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. So again, make sure your little tab is going on the inside there. Okay, same thing again, over and down, and because it's the score tape, because of course that's the only way you can really adhere down acetate, it will grab. And I'm just going to take my bone folder and shove it down in there. Okay, so there is the base of our shaker. I'm going to go ahead and grab my shaker fill. This is the Sparklets Disney one. You could fill this with any shaker fill that you want. Tammy is reordering this one right now. It is out. I had ordered this one, oh my gosh, like right when she first started carrying the sprinkles, or the sprinkle, yeah, sprinklets? Sprinklets. Okay, so I'm going to pour some of this in here. And is that enough? I want more. No, I think I'm going to use all of it because it's clear. It's not like it's going to, well, maybe I'm going to use all of it if it wants to come out of the bag. Oh, good enough. Those are sequins. We'll be fine. All right, so we're going to do the same thing again. Make sure those tabs are tucked in. And we're going to fold this down and over. This one's going to be a little bit trickier to get that adhered down. You are going to have to kind of pinch it more than you probably want to, but it'll work. And there is our borderless shaker. How cool is that? Okay, so we're going to take our score tape again. We're going to go around the acetate portion on the back. And then we'll glue in the middle. So if you want to do the borderless shaker like that, basically whatever size your base is, which, like I said, mine ended up being 4 1/4 because I had the 4-inch cut apart, and then I had, 2 layers to double mat that. You will just add, it's easiest with a 1/4 inch gusset. Okay, so it was 4 1/4. So I added a 1/4 inch for each in. So if I'm measuring across this way, it's going to be 4 1/4 plus 1/4 of an inch plus a 1/2 inch plus another 1/2 inch plus another 1/4 inch. Okay, so the 4 1/4 became 5 3/4. Okay, and since this was square, it made it easy because it was the same way both directions. But that is just such a fun shape to do it that way. All right, so then I'm going to take the one I've got buggered up because it's not going to matter because it's going on the back. And I am going to get my glue down in here. I should take my backing off first because I did not get a lot of glue on there and it's going to dry on me before I get these off. Ah, no. And so this is also 4 1/4, same size as our piece here. All right, so there's our back. And so we now can get this centered up on our belly band and adhered down. And then we'll just take our other 4 1/4 inch piece, feed that into the back there to reinforce this. And then you can just mat the back of this with, I'm probably actually going to use the rest of this dot right here to mat the back side of that. Okay, so like I said, this is 4 1/4, this is 4 3/4, so we've got about 1/4 of an inch that we're going to have hanging out on either side. So you can eyeball it, you can get like real technical and go, okay, you know, from the end here, I need it to come in to here, and on this side, I need it to come in the same, and do it that way. You can, however, whatever you think is going to be easiest for you. I am, however, going to use my ruler to find my center point here. Just to make sure when I'm sticking this down, I'm doing it so that it's not too high, it's not too low. Make sure everything's right side up too. That would be incredibly helpful, wouldn't it? Okay, so I'm just going to slide that over till I get to my little mark there. All right, there we go. Do our other side. All right, there you go. There's your belly band. Go ahead and put this one on the back. Actually, I'm going to mat that first. So it's 4 1/4. I want to go 4 1/8. I want to grab that paper trimmer actually. Weird. Okay, so I'm actually going to mat that before I put it down on the back there. And I think I am just going to use the red dots. If you wanted to put another cut apart on the back, you could. Okay. So I'm just going to center that up. Go ahead and get glue on this. Okay. And I'm just going to feed this through. Line it up right on top. Back there. That's going to hide where our belly band attaches and reinforce it. And then that's all going to slide right down over our book, like so. There we go. Okay, I've got a little bit more decorating to do, but I will show you really quickly. So once you get your tags in here, this is what you've got. So for my tags, they are 4 inches by 5 7/8. You could do them a full 6. They're going to hang out about 1/8 of an inch. Or, I'm sorry. Which way did I do these? Hold on. Hold on. I'm sorry. They're 4 1/8. That's what I did. By 6. I apologize. I had that backwards. 4 1/8 by 6. You will be able to get 4 by 6 pictures on here by just trimming a tiny bit off. I did go ahead and round the corners. I added some of the ribbon from my design team package on top there. You could actually make more than one set of tags to go in here if you wanted to, because of the way the acetate pocket has a little bit more space. You could get 2 or 3 tags in here easily. So that's entirely up to you. But there are 6 of those. I did mat on my little hinge pieces here with 1/2 inch strips. So this is a project too. If you've only got a little bit of paper left from a collection, this is a good way to use it up. Which normally this would have been one that I would have done after I had done a bigger project with this collection. But I was so excited to see if I could make it work that I went ahead and did it. So you can go ahead and decorate to your heart's content. You've got, an 1/8 inch gusset, so you've got some space in here. I probably still wouldn't get too crazy, but what's neat with the acetate is you can use like your stickers, and you can put your stickers on the outside of this acetate. It's not going on your photo. You can pull the photo out, and still see it. What I think would be a fabulous use for this project would be to just, make your tags and take them to the park with you. And you get your character autograph on the tag, and then you can put the picture of your child with the character on the one side. You've got their signature on the other, and then you can put those in here and you can see both sides. I mean, how awesome is that? So I'm going to do a little bit more decorating, but other than that, there's your project. I hope you guys enjoyed this. By all means, if you end up making this, and I sincerely hope some of you do, because this was so much fun and so different and out of the box for me, I can't even tell you. Share this, of course, on Scrapbookers of Country Craft Creations. You can share this on my page, Scrapping Under the Influence, and I also have a fan group now on Facebook, which is much easier to share on, and then other people other than just me will see it, and it is called I Scrapped Under the Influence, and I will put a link for that in the description. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you guys make it. See you later.